Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Court-Martail Podcast. Introducing your host for this evening first. He is the host with the most from the West Coast, the Bay Area Brawler, Skylar Greenberg. And his partner, he has colonized, energized, and revolutionized the podcasting wrestling world today. Your Colonial champion, Sean McCarty. And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, once again to another exciting edition of the Court-Martail Podcast. I am your Colonial champion, Sean McCarty, here to deliver the hottest, most electrifying podcast in all of YouTube regarding the professional wrestling world, made by Smarks for Smarks for the enjoyment of Smarks and casual fans alike. And with me to do it, as always, the man of the hour, the man with the power, too sweet to be sour. He is the Bay Area Brawler himself, working his corporate gimmick the way Kane does, corporate Skylar Greenberg. How you doing, my man?
First off, I hate monkey suits.
Yeah, well, I feel like I should do my taxes now, because you are wearing such a fine one.
Just because I'm a Jew, okay, now Sean's getting racist.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Hold on a serious note, I would like to apologize to the city of Los Angeles for booking two DQs in the co and main events.
Listen, Los Angeles, they had it coming. They had it coming, and you have plans.
They knocked out both of our teams.
That's
on the way
right.
to the Super Bowl.
That's right. You know, I want to be sympathetic, but unfortunately,
they denied us an NFC Championship match of the 49ers versus the Buccaneers.
They retired the only glimpse of hope the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have had in the past 15 years. So,
well, that glimpse of hope was destroyed the second Antonio Brown took off his shirt.
And we won that game. That's the most ridiculous part. We were down by 18 in that game and came back after that happened and won it. Albeit it was against the Jets. But sometimes you gotta have those wins, so it's...
But we're not here to talk about football drama, we're here to talk about wrestling drama.
And boy, do we have some, and as always, there's only one way that we present to you all the drama. Roll it! Coming straight to you from the Golden Gate Garage, this is the WrestleNews with Skylar Green.
That is right, folks. It is the news of the week with the Bay Area Brawler, Skylar Greenberg at your service. And Sean, I don't want to talk about this story. This story is sad, but I think we do have to talk about it.
Let's do it.
Did you hear about what happened to Sunny?
I did not hear what happened to Sunny.
She has been arrested. Again.
I thought she was still in jail.
No.
Sorry. My bad. Oh.
Okay.
Oh.
Do you want me to give this to you?
No, please tell me the story. I genuinely thought that she was still in prison. Just to kind of tell the tale of Sunny. But
So Sunny was arrested in January in New Jersey. I don't remember exactly what it is, but I think it was like DUI and stuff like that.
Wouldn't be surprised.
But on Thursday, February 24th, she was arrested again for 11 offenses. Including operating under the influence of liquor or drugs, driving after the driver's license was suspended/revoked, careless driving, reckless driving, failure to wear a seatbelt, driving without a license, failure to possess license, failure to possess driver's registration, failure to possess driver's insurance, failure to install an interlock/driver car without interlock, and operate a motor vehicle during license suspension. Second violation.
Well, how long was she in prison the first time?
She was in jail for like
couple years, right?
No, not a couple years.
It was
a
well.
Couple years?
It's gonna be a lot more than that now. God damn. I mean, Sunny needs Dallas, not the city, the person. But Sonny won't get Dallas unless Sonny wants Dallas. So it's sad, but this is, at some point, these are choices.
She was arrested in 2012 5 times in 4-week span.
Yep.
She was arrested 6 times in January 2013. She was arrested in 2015. Oh.
Yeah. Then she went on Vivid. Which, by the way, for those of you who don't know what... Oh, good, we're past the first 3 minutes. She got bird dogged on 2 videos, and they were not very good at all.
Did you watch them?
I sure did. I had to know. Out of curiosity, I had to know. And I wish I didn't. I wish I didn't. And that side tells me that you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Again, this is just one of those sad stories from a time in WWE where a lot of people had bad influences, and it just...
I feel bad for Sonny because she had talent. Episode? She was a good talker. She was a good heel manager. It's honestly just such a shame how it all went down.
Has Sonny been a part of a Dark Side of the Ring?
Not one exclusively, and they might be waiting for her. You know, I don't want to say why, but you know, they might be waiting for her to really fall off the wagon or redeem herself. You know, but
I don't think redemption is anytime soon.
Well, we thought that about Scott Hall and Jake Roberts too. I genuinely thought Scott Hall was going to drink and drug himself to death. And the fact that he's still walking around, you know, after, what was it, 10 years now? 10, 11 years since that whole thing came out, and he's still around. You know, you never know. You never know when rock bottom's going to hit somebody. You know? And I don't mean that in the wrestling pun. I mean that in a genuine, serious tone. And, you know, hopefully, I gotta say the joke. Hopefully, Sonny soon enough will smell what The Rock is cooking and turn things around.
Agreed. I hope.
I hope, because genuinely, it's not like either of us are like. I don't want to. The thing that happens with this is like everybody likes making fun of people while they're down like this. Like obviously, she's going through some shit that she cannot get over in her life. And I hope that she finds a way to get over it in her life. Like, we just hate to see this. We hate to hear about it.
I know. And again, I am hopeful that Sonny does get better and she gets the help she needs. Truly.
Me too.
Now we're going to move on to the company that she used to work for, WWE, and people that have been released and signed. So you cannot play... No, Sean, you cannot play that song.
But you know what? I'm gonna anyway. Roll it. So you've been released by the WWE. Best of luck in your future endeavors. You've been released by the WWE. And now you gotta go wrestle for Impact. You've been released by the WWE. Best of luck in your future endeavors. You've been released by the WWE. And now what? Pal. You gotta wrestle for Impact. Impact. And you know that pay gon' be so low.
I mean, it's a great song, but still, you don't have to play it every time.
I didn't the last time. I forget who the last person was. Oh, I think it was Shane. We didn't do it for Shane. And that was a big one. So because we didn't do it for Shane, we're gonna do it for this one.
That's because you feel like you know Shane's coming back.
Potentially.
You know that Shane's going to circle around, wait for the stink to come off, and he'll be hired soon enough.
I'm not going to say that's impossible, but we don't know. We don't know that for sure. He could be done entirely. He could just be going and hanging with his children.
I suppose. Anyways, so what we're here to talk about is a series of people who have been released and signed to different deals. Basically, this is WWE doing different things. So let's go ahead and start with the first one. Drake Maverick, or Rockstar Spud, depending upon your preference, has been rehired as a producer. Famously, he was a wrestler who was released during WWE's first pandemic releases, and then people advocated for him to return after he cut a great promo on YouTube, and he was brought back to NXT, and then he got released again.
Are they ever going to decide whether they want to keep this guy or not? Because at this point, make a damn decision.
Well, he's no longer a wrestler. I believe he's retired. Now he's a full-time member of creative as a producer / road agent.
Which is good. I mean, I'm not going to say, good for him. Definitely good for him. But are they going to decide whether they want to keep this guy or not? I mean, God, they're flopping him around like fish. And with their actual release schedule, even though this is kind of a shuffle around, there's no saying that Drake Maverick's job is secure, even though it's a different role.
Fair enough. Now, who's the person that you told me about? Someone on the Spanish announce team.
Carlos Cabrera. Yeah, this one's a little interesting. I found this out because of the podcast of our Ever Wrestling's favorite uncle, Jim Cornette. The favorite uncle, the better uncle, the more factual uncle statistically than the other one.
Okay.
And but it was just, it was a question. Carlos Cabrera had been moved on. He and Hugo Savinovich were the two commentators who were the Spanish announce team throughout most of WWE's popularity, especially their big popularity in the Attitude Era and going on into the Ruthless Aggression Era. So to a large portion of the WWE audience that is outside of America, those two are probably not too dissimilar from the JR and King for us, in that respect. And to see this, a long-standing guy like this go, and I think one of us suspected, it might have been you, Sky, that he was retiring, but it turns out that he's actually doing some local events with Hugo. That I've seen some indie things that they're going to be reuniting as a team. It's just interesting because Cabrera's been there for probably 30 years.
So apparently, I got a little bit more information. Carlos wanted to be a little bit closer to his family, so he asked for his release so he could go be with his family. So he currently is working for AAA in Mexico.
Okay. Yeah, because what's WWE going to do? Say, no, you can't? Even though they're trying to dump a bunch of old people anyway in favor of new, shinier models?
I mean, it's also one of the things where the guy is 62. He's probably, at this point, he doesn't need the money. He's just doing it for passion.
For sure.
And if he wants to be closer to his family, he can be closer to his family.
Yeah, absolutely. More power to him. Good. Congrats for you, Carlos. Because I always liked those two guys, even though we never really got the interaction between them or understood the words. Like, they were just as much a part of the show, especially in the Attitude Era, where the Spanish announce table for sure getting destroyed.
Not to mention the fact that they opened the doors for a lot of Hispanic Americans to become fans of wrestling, and that's important.
Absolutely.
You need that representation.
Absolutely. So best of luck, and I mean this genuinely, not just as a joke, but seriously, best of luck going forward, Carlos. You have earned whatever you want to do going forward.
The best part, by the way, is that now he's in AAA, which means that the English announce table is the more likely one to get broken.
Theoretically. I don't watch AAA, so I wouldn't know.
Yes, they reverse the trend. It's always the English announce table that gets broken first.
That's fair. It is.
Hugo gets a desk, and so does Carlos.
Yeah, Hugo gets a pass. Finally, that dude got beaten the shit out of in WWE. I remember, I think it was JBL or somebody missed a chair shot and hit Hugo, and he juiced for it.
It was JBL.
Yeah, it was JBL. JBL was the most, trigger happy with those steel chairs, man.
Well, he's a beer-drinking cowboy. Anyways, now we're going to move on to the next man. And this one is disappointing. But Cesaro has not been released, but his contract has expired with WWE. Now, apparently, they were working on trying to get him an extension or a renewal. But the problem is that Cesaro was not happy with his booking, and they couldn't come to an agreement.
Well, I can't imagine why. He gets choked out by Roman Reigns, and then we barely ever see him ever again.
He gets choked out by Roman Reigns, loses the feud to Seth Rollins, and is never heard from again. I hate the fact that you called it when we reviewed WrestleMania Backlash, but you fucking called it.
Yeah, I said once I saw how they finished that match, I knew exactly how it was going to go down. And then I don't like being right, but when I'm right, I'm right. And here's the thing with Cesaro. It's a weird phrase to use in this context, considering what it usually means, but it's like, I hate to see you leave, but I love to watch you go.
again, you've been advocating for everyone should leave WWE because that's the only way we're going to get change.
Yeah, I've been of the opinion of we need like a full-blown like walkout of the whole talent. Not the Angle one where CM Punk proved to everybody he's an incredible guy on commentary, but like an actual for real walkout. And it's going to start, it's already been starting with people saying I can't continue this. Scotty Too Hottie leaving and being like, "Nah, I'm out." You know,
Tony Storm.
Yeah, Tony Storm being like, "Nah, I'm out of here." The fact that Mustafa Ali is caged up for a couple more years, you know,
and he can't get a release.
Yeah,
and the reason why is because WWE knows that if he goes to AEW, they're going to use him.
And they also hate when they announce on Twitter that they've requested their release. Like, just shut up until you get it, bro. Just don't say anything. Just shut up until you get it.
But this is one of those cases with Cesaro where it's just like, this guy could have been a world champion, and they never pulled the trigger on him.
Well, here's the problem, though. Let's assume, because there's really only one place he's going. Realistically, there's only one person who's going to wave unfathomable amounts of dollars in Cesaro's face because he is literally the poster child of WWE holding people down who deserve it. Realistically. He is the poster child for it. Without a doubt, Tony Khan's whipping out that checkbook and giving it to him. But where do you put him on that card?
In the middle.
Where does he end up in 6 months' time when Tony Khan is done playing with him?
Because here's the thing, is that he's not bigger than Daniel Bryan. He's not bigger than CM Punk. He's not bigger than Jon Moxley. You can even argue he's not bigger than Adam Cole, all that's considered.
Well, not only in the most figurative sense.
Cesaro would probably end up in the mid-card. And end up on Dark.
He would end up being Miro'd. Look what happened to Miro. Oh my God, what a huge deal. He starts beating the piss out of everybody. Has a good match with Eddie Kingston, albeit kind of predictable. And now what?
No. You are incorrect. Because Miro showed up as a video game geek, and then he became a heel. He started beating people up. He had a good match with Bryan Danielson and a good match with Eddie Kingston and has disappeared.
Yep. He's gone.
It's like they used him incorrectly, then they used him correctly, then they used him incorrectly again.
And then Tony Khan's just like, I don't want you anymore. And that's, I genuinely think, unfortunately, I think Cesaro shows up. They make a big deal out of it for about a month. He shows up occasionally. He gets put into a couple good mid-card feuds, but slowly but surely he's going to be made to be seen as of equal value that WWE was holding him or less.
Basically, he's going to become like Christian.
Yeah, and it's just...
Like he may get one world title shot, and then he loses, and then he does nothing.
And it will be on television. It will not be a pay-per-view match. Guaranteed. And it's so disappointing because this guy is somebody who definitely has the tools, but like, what a bad time to leave. It's like when you've got people with momentum as large as MJF and Punk and Danielson and Kingston and people who are, whether you like it or not, going to be featured on a prominent basis like Omega and the Young Bucks are. Like it or not, that's the way AEW is. Does Cesaro deserve to have more important matches than the Young Bucks? Absolutely. Will he? Absolutely not. Because this is AEW. Now, and then let's say he doesn't go to AEW. Then where's he go? Control your narrative. The promotion for bald guys everywhere. Control your narrative.
He can wrestle against Austin Aries again.
Oh, well that'd be great. Him and Braun Strowman, how about that? That sounds like a match that people are crack-a-lacking to see.
No. You know the real place he would go. Impact.
Of course. Well, at least they'd be treated seriously there. Even though that show is in shambles, he would still win. He would still be treated seriously at Impact. But unfortunately, that might be the only place. Unless Ring of Honor on their comeback, which would honestly not be a surprise to see Cesaro on that show. It's just, and honestly, Ring of Honor is not a terrible idea, because if you're trying to relaunch that show and get some people to build your show back around, somebody like Claudio Castagnoli, one of the originals, wouldn't be a bad guy to have in that effort.
That is true. Now we're going to talk about a person who does have a contract with WWE and has re-signed, the phenomenal AJ Styles.
I'm curious to hear how long.
Apparently it's 3 years.
Okay.
It is over $3 million. There is some financial accommodation for bus travel included in the contract.
Okay.
And it puts him... So here's WWE's pay tier in terms of who makes the most money. So it's Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar, Ronda Rousey, and Randy Orton, obviously, right?
Yep, that makes sense. Sadly, Ronda Rousey, but yeah, that makes the most sense.
AJ apparently is in the group just behind them, including Edge, Goldberg, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, and The Miz.
I'm glad Sami Zayn's getting some cream.
But that's a lot of money for AJ.
Well, hey, listen. I'm not going to knock AJ, who spent 15 years getting to WWE, for getting the cream from WWE, considering that they didn't have to treat him the way they did. And they made him feel important. They used him in an important way. Yeah, say what you want about how he's booked now, but that you can make that case for literally everybody on the program.
Plus, he's not booked terribly. He still gets championships every year.
No,
he's still involved in programs.
They clearly see that AJ is a valuable commodity, and they also know that if they don't sign him to a big money contract, a guy like AJ Styles cannot leave.
It's just one of those interesting things where supposedly the contract he's currently on was supposed to be his last contract, and he was going to retire at the end of it. So it's weird that he's signing back for a few more years, but I guess they made him an offer he could not refuse.
Well, I think Vince and company had to. Because Tony Khan will throw, because they do technically have the financial advantage with Tony Khan. Tony Khan would throw everything and the wall and I'm not just talking about Ron Reese. Everything and the wall to get AJ Styles to come to AEW. There would be no pain stopped. There would be no chance that they would just pass that opportunity, even if AJ said, yes, I'm retired. Vince understood that, and he must understand that AJ Styles would be taken away in a heartbeat by AEW. So Vince wants to be like, AJ, you want to retire here? You want to retire here? That's fine. You want to retire in the middle of this contract and stop wrestling? Fine. But I'm not taking you out of contract when there's somebody willing to almost double it, I almost guarantee you, if I don't give you a good offer now. Vince realizes that AJ is one of his major staples.
That's fair enough. And we'll see how it goes. Now, there's one more signing, but we'll get to that in a second because that man is the person we're going to be talking about most of today. We're going to shift to the company that he used to be employed by, AEW.
Okay.
So, as you both know, we have a pay-per-view coming up, AEW Revolution March 6th. I believe that is next week, correct?
It is the day after my birthday. Should be a fun show.
What a bad birthday present.
I know. It's a little disappointing. But, you never know. This show could end up being really good, although it has kind of a head-scratching main event.
Well, let me give you the match card, and you tell me whether or not you're excited for it.
All right, let's do it. It can't possibly be worse than last year's show.
Jade Cargill versus Ty Conti for the AEW TBS Women's Championship.
That will be a train wreck. But an enjoyable train wreck because I will probably laugh through most of the awfulness that it is.
Face of the Revolution ladder match for a future AEW TNT Championship match. Keith Lee versus Wardlow versus Powerhouse Will Hobbs versus Ricky Starks versus Orange Cassidy versus To Be Decided.
Well, I'm rooting for To Be. I love To Be Decided. That's one of my favorite wrestlers. Go To Be.
He took over a vacant spot, which is unfortunate.
No, well, here's my thing. Why would you do this to Keith Lee and Wardlow?
And Powerhouse Will Hobbs.
The last thing you want to do with these three big beefy boys is put them in the same match, a gimmick match, all at once. This is like premier mark booking right here. And we know Mark booking. We're actually pretty good at it. This is Mark booking that just is like, I'm writing for too many shows, so I'm just putting people down on pieces of paper. Why would you do this to Keith Lee?
I have no idea.
He's probably going to win it. Don't get me wrong. He's probably going to win it. But still, why would you do this to Keith Lee?
Who knows? The next match, a three-way tag team match for the AEW World Tag Team Championships. Jurassic Express versus Redragon versus TBD. To be decided.
Oh, go Tubi. Go Tubi.
We have not gone to the next Dynamite, which I believe is like February 28th or something.
Yep.
No, it's February 20. It actually would be March 1st or 2nd.
It'd be March 2nd would be Dynamite.
Anyways, there is going to be a gauntlet match, and I think the Young Bucks are probably going to win it because of the story they're telling, and that's going to suck.
I'm not surprised. I mean, are you really surprised that the Young Bucks are trying to get themselves into a triple threat tag team match where not only can they do every move ever created ever, but to two different teams at the same time?
And there'll be no disqualification, so you know they're going to use weapons.
And it's only just going to make me disappointed in Fish and O'Reilly. I know it is. And
even if they win. Which, who knows? They may not, but I don't know. The next match, 6-man tornado tag, Andrade, Matt Hardy, and Isaiah Cassidy with Mark Quinn versus Sammy Guevara, Sting, and Darby Allin.
Why can't we just have a TNT title match with Sammy Guevara? If we're going to see Jade Cargill defend the hose belt, we should at least get the TNT belt as well.
Okay, now this Chris Jericho versus Eddie Kingston.
You know what? This match will probably not be as bad as we think because Eddie Kingston is goddamn incredible.
He's going to have to do a lot of carrying. And I mean a lot of carrying.
Yeah, I hope he's been lifting weights. I don't know if anyone has ever matched Eddie Kingston's I look like shit just as much as Chris Jericho does. Even though it works a lot more for Eddie Kingston than it does Chris Jericho.
Well, Chris Jericho hasn't made the gimmick yet.
That's yet.
Bryan Danielson versus Jon Moxley.
I don't know what to think about this match.
It's the same thing. Can Bryan Danielson get a wrestling match out of Jon Moxley?
Oh, I'm sure he will. I mean, I know Moxley knows how to wrestle. It's just that he doesn't want to. And man, who knows? Maybe this will prove me wrong.
The match that I think all three of us are probably looking forward to the most: CM Punk versus MJF in a dog collar match.
Hot take: this should be the main event.
The single tier by MJF.
This should be the main event, period. Not that they haven't built up to the main event that they're going to do, but in this case, there is a lot more emotional stake from the fans for this match than there is the world title.
It's the people's main event.
Yeah, without a doubt.
By the way, did they take a little bit of your ideas with babyface MJF?
Oh, I'm not saying they did, but I'm not saying they didn't. Not to the T. But they're definitely flirting with the idea.
Get sued.
That's right.
Stephen P. News.
So he's not a sponsor for us. Until he starts sponsoring us, we're not. I don't want to do that all the time. But stealing from us is a pretty common occurrence, Sky.
I know. So they're gonna take more DQs from me, aren't they?
Well, they just might. Well, WWE just might.
Dr. Britt Baker versus Thunder Rosa for the AEW Women's Championship.
I am excited for that match. That should be good.
And it's going to get no reaction because it's come right after CM Punk and MJF, isn't it?
I hope not. No, I don't think so. I think that they're going to give that more attention. I think so. I don't think it's going to be as bad.
And Adam Heyman Page versus Adam Cole for the AEW World Championship.
With the way that we've seen Adam Cole literally shrink before our very eyes, do you think that this match should be on last?
I hate to say it, but it kind of feels like the Super Intercontinental Championship, doesn't it?
Well, listen.
It'd be one thing if Adam Page was a good world champion, but so far he's kind of a meh.
I hate to admit that Jim Cornette was right, when he said that it was about the worst time you could put it on Hangman Page. Was right when Punk and Danielson were back and lapped Page in popularity. You couldn't give it to him after that. And honestly, it's shown. It's shown. And it's not that he isn't a good world champion. It's just that in the context of the rest of the show, it was bad timing. And it's left it very lackluster.
It's not even just that, but it's also the fact that Adam Page has not elevated himself to being a proper world champion. Like, the matches with Bryan Danielson were great, but we know Bryan Danielson can pull out great matches out of almost everybody.
Yeah.
His match with Lance Archer, which was a Texas death match, which is blech.
Yeah,
this is going to be a test whether or not Adam Page and Adam Cole can actually pull off a main event world title match, but I have no hope.
Well, I believe the match can be good. That I believe. But I don't believe it is going to be the same caliber as the matches previous that have the more emotional weight to them.
And you know Bryan Danielson, not Bryan Danielson, you know the Young Bucks are going to show up with Adam Cole. You know Redragon's going to show up.
Or
it's
worse,
be a lot of interference.
Kenny Omega's going to come back. It's possible. It's possible.
Anyways, in a few weeks, we will be reviewing that show.
That's right. And after we swore off it last year, it has become weirdly, in the most weird turn of events, something of a glimmer of hope.
Well, it's not because of anything they've done, but because of what the other company has done.
Yeah, it's the fact that WWE has sunk below their level.
Which will be proven with the WrestleMania 38 card. There are a couple matches I want to talk about and a couple of speculations I want to talk about.
All right, let's roll it.
Sami Zayn versus Johnny Knoxville for the Intercontinental Championship.
I don't have anything to say about that.
Well, let me continue, shall I?
Yeah, please do.
Vince McMahon is apparently going to show up on Pat McAfee's podcast on Tuesday, and potentially that will be used to set up a match involving Pat McAfee and Vince McMahon.
What, against each other?
It may involve like Pat McAfee versus, I don't know, like Austin Theory, because they've been building that thing.
That match I'd be fine with. McAfee in Theory might steal the show.
But here's the bigger thing. Why couldn't they do Pat McAfee versus Sami Zayn?
Because jackass money.
If you wanted a celebrity to be involved in a title match, why not be Pat McAfee? Oh, wait, I did that already.
Oh, wait. Well, yeah, they'd be stealing from you, but also, I want to just check something. What are the Jackass movies streaming service?
I have no idea.
Because if it's Peacock, then that would really just explain it.
They were Paramount.
Oh, okay. Because I was gonna say, if they were streaming on Peacock, then that would explain it. But
hold on, let me see.
No, you're right. You were right. I see it on Amazon, but I don't see it on the cock.
Yeah, it's on Paramount.
Yeah.
So that theory shot to hell.
Yeah. Well, you never know what kind of influences, but yeah, because to be fair, Johnny Knoxville does attract a certain audience, and it's not the first time jackasses have been in WrestleMania. But should they be wrestling for titles that they've already proven don't matter? They know they don't care. We know they don't care.
You're right, because the only match they care about is Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar, and everyone else is secondary.
Right. Exactly. He's not Lawrence Taylor, is Johnny Knoxville.
He's going to be worse than Lawrence Taylor, because at least Lawrence Taylor was in shape.
Yeah, Lawrence Taylor busted his ass for that match against... I'm not saying he was the greatest, because obviously Bam Bam carried that whole match, but at least Lawrence Taylor busted his ass to get to that point.
And at least Lawrence Taylor still had, actual hair.
Yeah, well, not all of us can be follically gifted, Sky. Just saying.
That's why I use Rogaine on mine.
Rogaine. It's I like it. Rogaine. It's just like a big swath of wheat, and I just rub it on my head and hope my hair grows back. It's Rogaine. Anyway, what's next?
Anyways, let's get to our final piece of news.
Oh, I thought we were doing more WrestleManias.
Supposedly, Cody Rhodes has not re-signed with WWE quite yet. But possibly he will be, but they're debuting him either after WrestleMania or at WrestleMania. They're not sure yet.
Right, because they don't know who the hell to put him with, I'd imagine.
Here's the question. Are you excited about a Cody Rhodes WWE run?
No. I couldn't care less. I said genuinely, Cody at this point has gotten so insufferable with me that I literally do not care what he did. You know what I'd like him to do? Take a year off. And then come back, and then I'll be like, oh my God, Cody, I remember him. How you doing? Let's see how he's doing. But
I don't think even that would help.
Well, distance does make the heart grow fonder, but I just don't see any interest in what they're gonna do with him. I don't see anything that he could do and that the writers could come up for him that's gonna make me go, I want to see that match. Not even against Stone Cold Steve Austin, who might be wrestling at 37 against Kevin Owens. On top of Belair and Lynch and Rousey and Charlotte and Brock and Roman title unification.
You're right.
How
now
this
here's
Mania.
The thing. This Mania is gonna suck. Now, if you excuse me, I need to step out for a little bit. So I'm gonna have my man Sean explain to you why you need good music.
Well, when you're trying to tune out a horribly placed transition. When you have got a transition thrown in your lap like it's a day-old stale piece of bread, and somebody just handed you a baguette and goes, here, cut this, bitch. You're going to need something in your rage when you're so angry at the way that transition was just dumped on your lap like yesterday's garbage. You're going to want to pick up that garbage. You're going to want to throw it in the trash, and you're going to want something to calm you down. Or maybe energize you up, because maybe you're about to go to the gym. Maybe you're about to go and play some video games. No matter the occasion, there is a music for every situation. And that music is something that we have more than once put on this show, and it is just as viable as it was the first time we did it, because a new era in entertainment has arrived. AB Production CT is proud to drag you out of the superficial monotony and overproduced, oversimplified modern musical mud pit with two industry-busting artists slowly taking the world by storm. Abizzle and Knux deliver an avant-garde approach to music that blends elements and instruments of a wide number of musical styles, including hip-hop, R&B, jazz, funk, rock, house, EDM, electronic dance music, and so much more. It is high time for the music industry to be shaken to its core. So be a part of the foundation-breaking movement by supporting aspiring artists. And right now, you can catch the latest release, The Wax Apocalypse, a 32-track album that took 2 years to come together. A saga of a lifetime awaits your eager ears. Look for Abizzle, spelled Abizzle, or Knux, spelled White space Knux, on SoundCloud, Apple Music, Spotify. We also found out that we have an iHeartRadio that neither of us knew existed leading up. So we have that. We're now on Amazon, so you can also buy our music on Amazon and take a listen to that. And so much more. The entire ABP discography of over 100 songs and projects, including Retreat, Mixed Bag, Verses from a College Grad, Bare Min, Recovering, and many more. All just a short click away. The links are in the description. Come join the entertainment revolution with AB Productions CT.
Support small artists, support small business, support Abizzle and Knux.
Thank you, sir. It's some good stuff. You're gonna have a time. It is certainly a time, and is definitely different from most of the things that you're hearing today. And there is more coming. We still got the wheels churning down in the factory. of AB Productions CT, and we've got more coming in the coming weeks and months. There's a single guaranteed coming out in May. That's going to be something. There's an album in October. There's an album in November, and all sorts of stuff peppered in between. So feel free to keep your finger on the button. Stay with your ear to the chest so you can hear the heartbeat and hear the pulse of modern music in the best way that you possibly can that doesn't feel so sold out. But speaking of things that are sold out, so much so that you're just tired of looking at them, no matter whether it's because they're just insufferable as actual human beings, whether you've just seen what they've done over and over and over and you're just tired of it, or whether they are just ancient. They are fossils, and not like archaeological discoveries that are very fascinating and exciting. They just refuse to lay into the ground and be buried with the rest of the talent. We're talking about superstars and wrestlers with go home heat. The concept of go home heat. Now, the first time that I ever heard of this phenomenon was with X-Pac.
He's probably the most famous example of go home heat.
Now, I don't know about you, Sky, but when I was watching X-Pac, I never sensed that from the crowd. But after going back and watching 2002 with him, you could definitely feel it in that feud with him and Kane.
Well, can you explain the concept of go home heat a little bit more specifically?
So go home heat.
What does it mean?
So go home heat is a term that a lot of people use where you're not getting heat because of the nefarious actions you're doing in the ring. It's not gimmick. It's not storyline. It's more of a guttural fan, kayfabe breaking response of, I don't want to see this person anymore on my television. Go home, I'm done with you. And you can sense this from crowds. Some have made it very vocal. Some don't. Some you just have to watch the little internets and listen to the IWC complain.
Because it's definitely a minority kind of thing where it's a very large, well, not large, but a section of very vocal fans that express that opinion.
Well, it used to be, but now with the majority of wrestling fans being those internet marks, that voice has become a lot larger.
That is true.
Well, by ratio.
By ratio, just because the mainstream fans have left.
Yes.
But we've been saying that for years anyways.
It's true.
So, X-Pac is probably the first and biggest example of go home heat, because when he was around, I think it was like, what, 01, 02?
Yeah, it was right when the Vince came up with the reformed NWO, and then Hogan left, and then Nash tried to like rally the troops, and he got like X-Pac and then Hall, and then it turned into the Big Show and Booker T and Shawn Michaels and Goldust trying, which eventually led to the team of Bookdust, which I loved. One of my favorite mosh posh tag teams of all time.
And the only good thing to come out of WWNWO.
Yes. But in that feud he had with Kane, people just did not give a fuck about him. Like, at all. And I think because everybody had seen it. You know, he was never so engaging on the mic that everyone was like, oh, I got to see him so I can hear what he has to say. And he never really diversified his in-ring, which was always solid, right? I'm not knocking X-Pac the worker at all. But people just didn't care anymore.
Agreed.
And there have been many since X-Pac, since this phenomenon has happened, that have incurred such heat. And I thought it'd be just kind of fun to talk about some of those people when we had them. Some people now who have go-home heat. Some people who over the years have had go-home heat. And what have they done as a company to try to alleviate that?
Well, this is mostly a WWE/modern wrestling thing, right? When the internet really started to come around and the vocal small fan base really started to become vocal.
Yeah, it became a lot more prevalent, especially as kayfabe was killed and left bleeding in the moonlight. And that's pretty much what happened there, but definitely on a more frequent basis as things progressed since that time.
I think we have to talk, though, about the most polarizing, and I use that word specifically for a reason, John Cena.
Yeah, and that's a weird one too, because people were very vocal as far as booing him because they didn't like him wrestling and they wanted him to leave, but I think they didn't really want him to leave.
It wasn't that they wanted him to leave, it's that they wanted him to turn heel, but then he was never going to turn heel, and then it became we don't want to see you anymore.
Yeah, we don't want to see this you anymore. We don't really have a problem with you specifically, even though you do the same moves all the time and it's very repetitive, but we want to see something different. Monotony has caused a lot of these problems, a la Dolph Ziggler.
Right. Of course, back with the John Cena thing, this really kind of started after he beat JBL, and then 06, 07, 08. I remember famously he came back at the Rumble in Madison Square Garden, and immediately once he started doing his John Cena 5 Moves of Doom, the fans started booing him because they didn't want to see that John Cena.
Which is the funniest thing, because that was one of the most deafening Rumble pops in history.
Because we were excited to see John Cena because he had been injured and we thought he was going to be gone, but then we realized he was going to be the same exact character.
Yeah.
We're like, oh God, we're already sick of this.
Yeah. And honestly, I don't even think it got really bad until, really 09. Until Randy Orton started doing his incredible stuff and Orton made this big switch and everyone's like, look, see, that is what we're wanting. I mean, not necessarily doing that, but that kind of gimmick layering, which you just don't have, John. All you do is change colors of t-shirts.
I mean, it also didn't help that he was continuously in the main event scene, and people didn't like the fact that he was in the main event scene, taking opportunity and time away from other people.
Yeah, destroying the Nexus, making Kevin Owens tap, which in all fairness, Kevin Owens bounced back from that significantly.
But it's just like taking the WWE title away from Sheamus, or killing off whatever heat CM Punk had.
Yeah, I mean, you there's a laundry list. But there was definitely a contingent that wanted to just see him disappear, even if it was just that version of him, but they just wanted him gone. And then when he left, we were all sad he left after a while, so...
Well, it took until this past 2021 when he came back at Money in the Bank for the people to not give him go-away heat.
Yeah, and then when he did the match, it was like, all right, we saw a John Cena match, and we're like, oh yeah.
But at least he had the good decency to not stay around after SummerSlam.
Well, that man's a busy man. He's
busy.
He's got a lot of things on his plate now. But
of course, at WWE, what they did was they kept, and specifically with Michael Cole, and this is one of the reasons I hate Michael Cole, saying the WWE universe is polarized half and half on John Cena. It's like, no, they're not. They're mostly booing him.
Yeah, they was pretty unanimous there for a while. In the same way that Roman Reigns was pigeonholed that way.
Exactly. It's the same type of, here's the all shucks, suffering succotash characters that we were just getting spoonful until we were choking. We were just like, I don't want to see this anymore. Get this off my TV.
But that kind of heat was more heat at the office as opposed to what a lot of people felt and probably still do about The Miz. Who are like, no. And to be fair, I've often said Miz cuts a decent promo when he's got the right material. But other than that, The Miz has gotten probably the most, this guy is a scrawny, out of shape, or like in shape, but not as in shape as everybody else. Small guy who thinks he's Hollywood, totally isn't, and isn't on the level of any of the wrestlers. And I know a lot of people who just want him off their television. It's not even that he's getting heel heat. He's just getting, I don't want to see you anymore kind of heat.
Well, he was fine for the first 4 or 5 years because he was playing that real world character.
Yeah, on and off.
He was doing that Hollywood character, but then it's just like he wouldn't go away.
Yeah.
He keeps doing the same shit all over again.
Yeah.
And he doesn't look as good as the other guys. Granted, he's fine in the mid card. And sometimes you can elevate him to a main event if you have to, but by God, he should not be carrying the world title.
Yeah. The Miz, as far as popularity, definitely came in waves. And definitely still does come in waves, but another example of go away heat is Big Show. Boy, when towards the end of his time in WWE, nobody wanted anything to do with the Big Show. at all.
It was because we were tired of the. Again, it was a meme. He's gonna turn face. Now he's gonna turn heel. Now he's gonna turn face again. Now he's gonna turn heel. He was kind of the poster child for bad WWE booking decisions.
Yeah, and people actually cheering, "Please retire." People were so goddamn mean to that dude, just because they were tired of the same shtick.
I know, and it didn't help also that he was just involved in bad feud after bad feud, stuff to humiliate him, like putting him in that stupid baby's outfit from New Year's, or making him lose titles in the most stupidest ways. I remember that match he had with Cody Rhodes, which was a tables match, and he lost it because he literally stepped on a table.
Yep. Yeah.
With the dumbest face ever.
Yep. Oh yeah, they did a lot of disservice to that man. It did WWE and but there's so many that you could list as far as people who just I don't want to see anymore. Just period. I mean, even though WWE was the most with it, but it's not necessarily just booking that does it. Sometimes you start to learn about these people in real life, and then you're like, God, I'm just so sick of you as a person, and I'm tired of you as a person. Goldberg. Somebody who just overstayed his welcome. And it's not that he wasn't an incredible draw. It's not that he still doesn't get chance to this day. That's not what we're talking about. But a lot of people, especially after his feud with Brock and the way he squashed Kevin Owens, did not want to see him again. And again. And again.
And the stuff in Saudi Arabia with The Fiend and Undertaker and this past one with Roman Reigns.
Yeah. Nobody wanted that, but they just kept dragging that corpse out of the backyard and just hooked it up to the electric cables and just charged it up and said, all right, one more run.
Well, they also did the same thing with Brock Lesnar for years on end.
Yeah. Yeah, Brock Lesnar for a long time had go-away heat. And he would have. He would have if he weren't getting paid $1 million a match.
If he wasn't getting paid so much to show up for so little.
Yeah.
I get it, how valuable he is, but still.
And that's no knock on Brock Lesnar. I mean, he's obviously earned what he's gotten. You know, I'm not knocking that at all because Brock clearly knows how to remain over despite being a giant physical specimen. You know, it's like he still knows what to do. So I've got no knock on Brock there. But there was a time that, you know, probably from 2017 on to about 2020, maybe even 2021, people were just done with Brock.
Because it was the same old shit.
Yeah. In the same context with practically the same people.
And the same matches over and over and over again.
And this has been a theme sometimes. And then sometimes it's celebrities that come in and think that they want to, you know, I want to play too.
The Paul brothers.
Ronda Rousey.
Ronda Rousey.
Particularly in this run, which is bringing me so much joy. She comes up, looks like dog shit in the Rumble, and everybody turned on her in a heartbeat.
Again, it's not like... You know, I'm not even gonna do it. I'm not gonna do the rants.
No, you mean on Ronda?
No, I've already done the rant.
Yeah, no, our opinion of Ronda Rousey has well been established. I'm not gonna get upset about it. I find it very satisfying that wrestling fans are like, no, fuck this. This is the worst.
What little of them are left.
Yeah, and so that's kind of what this ended up is that go home heat is no more prevalent than it's ever been now because the fans have a much stronger voice now than they used to.
And it's not just WWE because AEW has shown it too, particularly with Cody and Brandy.
Yeah, and before we get into this, another name to throw in, Asuka. Remember how you and I were like, I'm done with Asuka. Go home heat. And then she messed up her rotator cuff and she's been gone. And now I honestly would like to see her again.
But she never had it with the majority of the fans.
The go home heat, you mean?
Yeah, she never had it with the majority of the fans. It was just you and me.
Kinda. I mean, the way that she was booked as the afterthought of a feud that involved her as champion for most of it, I think also hurt a lot of perception on people. I saw a lot of people turning on Asuka towards the time that she was leaving.
But it's kind of hard to gauge that because that happened during the Thunderdome era.
Right, and if there's one person who needs a thunderbolt straight to the noggin, and I'm not just talking about the color of his goddamn hair, it's Cody Rhodes, because he's one of those guys, and Cody and Brandy, as you just mentioned, both of which just worked themselves into being the most despised human beings on the planet. Saying, I'm not going to turn heel. I'm never going to turn heel. I'm the ultimate babyface. Here, I will take your placenta, my wife. And Brandy, who's just like, I must be the center of attention all the time for everything. The fact that this man founded this company and was cheered when he left because his wife was that insufferable.
Because I must start a podcast that's about me, and I'm going to pretend that it's about women, but it's really about me. I have to be a professional wrestler, even though I suck at it.
I have a cooking show, and I can't cook.
I'd be actually interested to see if she could actually cook.
I did a subscribing service to all the AEW women fans called Heels.
Yeah, that's the one I was talking about.
Yeah. Oh, man. And that, and I was actually listening to old ACPW things, and I said this when MJF was accusing Cody back in season 1 of using his father's legacy and his popularity to fund his vanity projects. Fast forward 2 years, and that's exactly what happened. And here we are, and I think before we get into this discussion of why nobody even cares that he's coming to WWE now when he was that valued, we have to understand why he was valued in the first place. And I have a match that showed why he was valued in the first place, and we get to review it because that's part of the show. Roll the intro, baby.
What time is it?
It's the fight, it's the brawl, it's the match of the week. It's tonight, watch along with the son of a beat. It's one fall, the down for the 1, 2, and 3. So don't stall, hang on to the edge of your seat. We got a punch and a flip and a powerbomb too. All the moves and the stars are all under review. See the babyface cheered and the heels get heat. This is wrestling at its peak. It's the match of the week. That's right, folks. It is the match of the week, and we have got a good one. It is Cody, and only Cody, because he hadn't gotten the rights to his name back, LOL, versus Nick Aldis at All In for the NWA Heavyweight Championship, the independent pay-per-view phenomenon from September. Was it September 11th?
It was September 1st.
September 1st, right. I was like, I know there's a 1 in there somewhere. So September 1st, 2018, in Chicago.
In the Sears Center Arena in Hoffman Estates, Illinois, just a little bit south of Chicago.
That's right. But they called it Chicago the whole time, which was kind of funny.
Right, and this was all because Dave Meltzer said that Cody Rhodes could not sell out a building with 10,000 people.
And Cody Rhodes said, oh yeah, well fuck yourself. And then they did. And then the rest is now on Wednesday and Friday nights.
And now the rest is all elite.
That's right. But where it all began was this match, which was arguably the best match on this show, with the main event being Kota Ibushi and the Young Bucks facing 3 irrelevant Towroonies.
No, do you know who those people are?
I just don't remember the names. I know they were important, question mark.
Bandito.
Okay, cool.
Ray Phoenix.
Okay, cool.
Rey Mysterio.
All right, that's he's the only main eventer of that whole bunch.
I know.
And Chris Jericho showed up in a Pentagon mask during the Penta and Kenny Omega match.
Hold on. You have not mentioned it. You have not mentioned the thing.
Oh.
The ghost dicks.
Oh, yes, of Christ, the Dick Druids. Yes, of course.
Page beating Joey Janela, and then the Dick Druids coming out. And
your
then
AEW World's Champion, ladies and gentlemen. That is from humble beginnings. Rose from the ashes. World's Champion. But
anyways,
we've got the real World's Champion in this matchup. And that is Nick Aldis and Cody. And the entourages. Cody started with this entourage stuff. I forgot that how like many people he had on his side here. Because he's got Brandy and Dallas and Tommy Dreamer and
Glacier.
And Glacier. And then on the other side, Aldis has got Jeff Jarrett
and Tim Storm, Sean Daivari, and Samuel Shaw.
Yeah, what a hodgepodge. It's like that. But to be fair, they all stayed out of it with the exception of Dallas. But that was worth it for what they were trying to do here. What did you think of this matchup?
This was probably one of the better Cody matches I've seen recently. It was Cody before he went crazy and egotistical and all that shit.
Yeah.
Even if there were a couple of spots that I found to be hilariously bad.
Me too. For me, this match was very good. Is it a great match? I don't know if I can rate it that high. But it was very good. There were a lot of good things in it. I thought the pacing was really well done. Aldis and Cody definitely read and responded to the body language, particularly, with Aldis being the clear heel in this matchup. Cody doing the cartwheel and then Aldis doing the top rope drape, like the relaxed, I'm not in any rush to do this. That Cody's cartwheel got a cheer. The Aldis's thing got boos. I'm like, all right, they are definitely feeling the flavor of how this match is going to go. And they took their time with this.
The other thing, too, is that it was presented as a real sports fight. You have Earl Hebner doing introductions and explaining the rules, holding the championship.
Yep. But there was one thing that killed this matchup for me, and it was the commentary.
Do you want the commentators?
Oh, please give me the commentators. Now, I know that I believe there were 4 of them. I don't know if Mooney was actually at the table. But the names I know were Ian Riccaboni, Excalibur, and I forget who the third guy was, and then potentially Sean Mooney.
So you are right about Ian Riccaboni, who was the play-by-play guy, Excalibur, Don Callis.
Really? Because I didn't really hear him a whole lot in that, unless his voice was that hoarse.
Either that or he was not in this match, but he was on commentary.
Yeah, because I didn't hear him. I didn't think.
And specifically for this match, Brent Tarring. I don't know who the hell that is.
Well, the dude sounded like Psychic Pebbles trying to do a commentary. Shout out to you who know who that is.
And Sean Mooney was an interviewer, but I don't think he did this match.
No, I don't think he did either. But this was just, these guys were bad. Ian Riccaboni did a decent job. I thought that he was all right doing the actual play-by-play.
It's clearly Excalibur that sucks. Hold on. Sorry. 2-time back-to-back commentator of the year, Excalibur.
Yes. The Excalibur was bad, and the other guy, this Brent Washburger, was bad.
I normally do not wish violence on people, but Excalibur, I'm taking that mask and I'm choking you with it. You suck.
It's a sock.
You suck.
It's a sock disguised as a mask.
You suck terribly, and you need to... Ugh.
You know what my favorite quote was of these 3? It was right after they announced Cody, and one of these commentators said, and I quote, "This is a moment in time."
Thank you, Michael Cole.
Full stop. I'm like, wow, what an absolutely astute and mind-breaking statement that was. This is a moment in time. You're right. Way to lay it down like it is. So,
anyways, so they do chain wrestling. They do collar and elbow tie up, which is great.
Yep.
And then Cody does a dive, which
I didn't hate it. His probably looked better than most of the rest of them on the show.
Nick Aldis, I forgot how good he is at chain wrestling.
Yeah, but not going so like 1,000 miles an hour with it either. He lets every piece register.
But then, what happens? About minute 9 of this match, Nick Aldis and Cody are doing an exchange of like punches or something, and Nick Aldis lands a punch or 2, and then Cody counters with a super kick, except the camera angle shows that Cody missed him completely.
By at least a boot length.
And Nick Aldis had to sell it, and the fans no reaction.
He's like, oh no, ow. That was bad.
And then they do this thing where Cody teases doing Crossroads. Nick Aldis grabs him and tries to do a back suplex, which Cody counters. And then they both do this kind of run off the ropes, but they're both look so unathletic because they get no speed.
Yeah. But then they recover with that by doing the double crossbody, which I always love how it looks.
The double crossbody was bad.
I didn't hate it. I honestly didn't hate it. It's not the best one I've ever seen, but I didn't hate it.
No, they got no speed and looks like they were coordinating it.
Well, okay, that's a valid argument. When it's done right, it is. I didn't hate it considering that I was still laughing about the super kick. So maybe I just didn't see how poorly they got into it, but it was like, because I was still laughing so hard from how bad that super kick was.
It's one of those things where you kind of have to slow it down to see what happens. But then they come to probably my favorite spot of the match, which is Cody is going onto the top rope as Nick Aldis rolls out of the ring. He jumps up and is about to try and hit Nick, and Nick does a dangerous elbow to Cody's face.
And then because Cody had to take forever to blade, they bring in Dallas. They really hold it off. They do the X, which I honestly think they should just get rid of the X because I think people now know that it's mostly used for angles at this point.
But I think it was one of those things that they were trying to like pretend, or at least
right.
What you call it.
I get that. I totally get that. I just the X to me just doesn't feel like it has the gravitas it used to.
But here's the thing: is that Cody, if you watch him and you watch Earl Hebner gets out of the ring to look at Cody. Cody grabs Earl on the knee and then starts whispering to him about the fact that he's having issues getting blood.
Yeah.
So Earl has to throw the X.
Yeah, and then Dallas, and somebody back there's like, all right, Dallas, go down there and check on him. You know, help his ass out. So now
in order to get more time for Cody to get the blood.
Which was fine. At least they covered it. It was like the referee, you know, Earl Hebner obviously wants this match to continue if it can, but wants to make sure Cody, so he's deliberately stopped the count to check this because this is a title match. So I thought that cover was fine for breaking the rules. And then Cody comes in and he's overjuiced, and anyone who's ever seen a Cody match ever knew that was what he was doing.
It wasn't just that he was juiced. It was that his juice looked bad.
Yeah. Because he probably did it 3 or 4 times. And then all of a sudden it hit it all at once, and then he's like, oh, shit. And
exactly.
Then Nick Aldis does a fall-away slam that Excalibur calls a blockbuster.
Two-time
champion. 2-time commentator of the year. We got him. And then some dumbass in this, it wasn't Excalibur, but one of these guys, when Cody got the figure 4, Nick Aldis was like, that's what Dusty used to do. He's honoring his father with that figure 4. I'm like, you have got to be kidding me.
It's the other guy.
How did you end up on commentary? If you don't know that Dusty Rhodes, if you're going to mention Dusty Rhodes, how do you not know that Dusty Rhodes never used the figure 4?
Maybe he used a counter, but it's always Ric Flair.
This dude was a mark in the worst way. In the worst way.
Not even a smark, just a mark.
No, he's just a mark. And then this is I apologize for the video quality. By the time you've all seen this, you will have gone through the match of the week live reaction with me. Parts of this match were blacked out in phases. So we didn't miss anything big, but there were definitely like these weird blackouts. I don't know what that was all about. But it didn't really matter. Then Cody goes for this Alabama Slam deal. And for some reason they refused to mention Bob Holly's name.
Gee, I wonder why.
I honestly do wonder why, because if they mention Dusty not using a figure 4, why wouldn't they just mention Bob Holly?
Now, hold on. Where was the Alabama Slam? What minute of the match was it?
It was definitely towards the end.
Because you missed a botch.
Which botch?
So Nick Aldis grabs Cody, does a power slam on the outside. And
right.
Nick Aldis grabs Cody, throws him back into the ring, gets him into the corner. And then Cody does an Irish whip to Nick Aldis, who grabs the top turnbuckle and tries to Hurricane Rana Cody. Cody grabs him and is attempting to do the Alabama Slam, but he drops Nick Aldis.
Oh, I genuinely thought that was just because he was trying to sell it. Trying to sell the fact that he was injured.
No, he legitimately dropped him.
Well, then they covered for it really well because given the heat that Cody had already got, you almost didn't even that didn't register with me because I was like, oh, well, he's clearly hurt because Aldis has been kicking the shit out of him, just did a big power slam, rattled his back, so it's no surprise he wouldn't be able to lift him up with his back like that. And then he has to go for it again and power slam him again. I honestly thought that actually helped the tone a little.
I saw the botch. I think they covered for it well, but whatever. Nick Aldis does the sharpshooter.
Yeah, he does his cloverleaf, but it was not his best cloverleaf. I've seen better.
I'm willing to forgive it.
No, it was fine. I've seen better. But then the whole finishing sequence here with Brandi. Because Brandi has to get her camera shots in. And here's my one complaint. Earl Hebner, during this whole thing with Brandi sitting there pleading for Cody's life, should have been trying to get Brandi out of the ring, not stop Nick Aldis from being on top.
It would have been better if Brandi had gotten on the ring apron and Nick Aldis threw a punch.
Yeah, or Brandi's complaining on the apron or something like that as he's getting up, and then Brandi gets in the ring and then just dives over him as he jumps, but it was like you almost just knew where it was coming, although I will say it was still, to this day, satisfying watching Brandi take an elbow into the back.
No, but the thing about it is that Cody, the way this match should have ended, and this is how you do it with a proper booker now, is that Nick Aldis should have thrown a punch at Brandi. Cody sees this, gets angry, hits the disaster kick, then does the crossroads for the 1, 2, 3.
Well, I think they also weren't trying to have Aldis be beaten by a finisher either. Hence why they did the SummerSlam 92 Brett Davey Boy finish. But you could have still done. I didn't really hate it, but Cody took too long getting Aldis's legs. I think it just wasn't as smooth. I like the idea of the finish. It just wasn't as smooth as the one that it all reminded us of.
I suppose it's just
And honestly, even though the elbow, regardless to Brandi, it did get heat. It got good heat.
Back when people liked Brandi.
Yeah, well, back when people liked Cody enough to forgive Brandi. That's what happened. But then Cody is a good finish. He starts tearing up because it's his dad's belt and all that, and that was all fine and good. And it just made me miss that Cody. But unfortunately, now we see Cody for what he is.
Well, we have to remember the good Cody before the bad Cody.
Well, and there was a lot of everything in between Cody before we talked about either of those, and we are going to mention it because guess what? Our spotlight, unsurprisingly, I'm sure, is Cody Rhodes. Now, Cody started his career in the mid-2000s. But the first time we see him is, late 2007, early 2008?
It would be July 2nd, 2007.
Yes. Where he kind of drifts for a little bit until
hold on.
Bob Holly.
He makes his debut with Dusty introducing him to people, and the first person he introduces them to is Hacksaw Jim Duggan, which is fun.
Who is actually from Glens Falls, New York, which is a town that I used to live near. Fun facts.
But then Randy Orton rolls up, gets mad at Dusty for not introducing him to his son, and then slaps Dusty.
And eventually punts Dusty, I'm pretty sure.
Well, this started a feud between Cody and Randy.
Which Cody was very clearly not prepared for, but that's how it started.
Yep.
And then they kind of
team up with Hardcore Holly or Bob Holly.
Which wasn't the worst thing, but it still was strange. I mean, they knew that they needed to pair him with a veteran, without a doubt.
It's definitely one of those things where they did the tried and true method of team up the rookie with the veteran, let the rookie get the beat up so that the veteran could teach them and do the comebacks and tag matches.
Yeah. And it worked. I mean, it wasn't necessarily the best, but it worked for what they were trying to go for. But I don't really think that anybody really gave Cody that much attention at this point.
Well, he did end up winning the tag team championships with Bob Holly.
Yeah, with Bob Core-Holly. With Bob Core-Holly.
Yeehaw!
Yippee-ki-yo, Kanye. And,
But the thing about it is that Cody, you could see him progress, and he got moments to shine. Like, for example, in the 2008 Rumble, he attacks The Undertaker, and The Undertaker grabs Cody. Cody stops him and then does a enziguri kick to The Undertaker because The Undertaker told him to give him the kick.
And, yeah, no, they got some offense. There was obviously... The Office definitely saw something in him, beyond the fact that he was just Dusty's kid, but they obviously saw that there was potential in him. But I don't think, at least for me, I didn't really see anything of value in him until Legacy.
Right, which was him and then Manu and DiBiase until Randy Orton showed up and then kicked out Manu.
Right. And that's when it really hit its peak. Him and DiBiase were a great tag team, feuded with a lot of good teams, a lot of good people. Chris Jericho before, well, actually no, because Jericho was a heel at the same time. So
no, but they were involved in a lot of Randy Orton's feuds and had to fight a lot of Randy Orton's opponents.
Yep.
So he ended up going against guys like Kofi Kingston, CM Punk, MVP,
a lot
Batista,
of
Triple H, John Cena,
DX,
Shawn Michaels.
They made Shawn Michaels submit in that Hell in a Cell match, right? I think it was. Yeah. Yeah, there was a time when they were viewed and treated with a lot of respect as one of the best up-and-coming teams.
It was at breaking point in a submissions count anywhere match. They lost the Hell in a Cell match.
Right.
It took a sledgehammer to Rhodes' face.
Yes. Yes. That's right.
But then they broke up Legacy in 2010, and that feels like it was a bit too early.
I didn't understand it. I didn't think that Orton needed to turn babyface at all. I thought that their whole interaction in the chamber that year was unnecessary. Because, like you said, there was no need for them to do that. That was one of the best things that WWE really had going for it. Even though Orton's momentum was significantly slowed after running into the John Cena wall.
I mean, you could have done things with Randy maybe on SmackDown because they were on Raw. You could have moved the three of them to SmackDown and have them do the same thing over there.
Yeah, there had to have been a way to keep them around, but instead, Cody has to kind of fend for himself.
And then he gets moved to SmackDown.
Yeah,
and he becomes Dashing.
Now, I really liked Dashing Cody Rhodes, but I don't think it became what it was meant to become until the nose break.
Which was an accident.
Yeah, totally. It was totally, and that's kind of thing. Sometimes those injuries become like the best angles, or they become the best things. Like that's what made Becky Lynch.
By the way, we forgot to mention that Cody Rhodes teamed up with Drew McIntyre and became tag champions.
Yeah, at a time when McIntyre was being forced, and it just didn't work. And at a time when
also had go home away heat.
Yeah, and also at a time when Cody was not experienced enough to have a guy like Drew McIntyre be his tag partner.
Right, but the feud with Rey Mysterio and undashing Cody Rhodes, the paper bags, he was good as a heel.
Yeah, and it changed, I think, a lot of people's perception of him, and how he was as a singles competitor. Even though he would find more success in the tag division not long thereafter, he had legs as a singles champion.
Well, and that's why Intercontinental champion.
And I was just about to say that's why he got the Intercontinental belt.
Right, he beat Ezekiel Jackson, and then he feuded with Randy Orton again with DiBiase as his partner.
Yeah, with babyface Orton, I believe.
Yep, babyface Orton, which 2011 Randy Orton, there was good and there was bad, but sometimes when he was good and he was on, he was on.
Oh, no doubt. And no doubt. 2011, he had those matches with Christian, which were some of Christian's best. as a
with
baby
Christian,
face.
Mark Henry, there was good stuff there with Randy Orton baby
Yeah,
face.
it's just that for every one of those, you had his match with Cody Rhodes, which was
And then,
meh.
well, yeah. And then October 2nd, the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, he re-debuts the white Intercontinental strap.
Which I thought was an incredibly solid move, and he was definitely the person to do it with.
Yep, and it may be one of my favorite championship designs in WWE.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still a fan of the old Winged Eagle, not the Attitude Era one, the one before that. But that's just me. But still.
But I think the white strap Intercontinental title is probably my favorite Intercontinental title.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt. Same. Definitely same.
And then Randy Orton beats him and in the feud and breaks his nose guard, and Cody becomes not undashing or dashing, but kind of a composite of the two.
Yeah. In a very weird way. But then that ends up being something that allures a man who is also trying to establish himself and could have, as somebody really important to watch on that show until WWE completely sabotaged it, Damien Sandow.
Hold on, we're not there yet.
Well, we're pretty close to there yet, unless there's something really important that he did between the 2011 and early 2012 is when they started?
Well, the feud with Booker T.
Which lasted, one pay-per-view?
No, it lasted a couple pay-per-views.
Did it?
And then the Big Show stuff.
Right. Yeah, that's the only thing. I remember Booker T coming back, but the only thing I really remember was the him and Big Show stuff.
Right, and then the Team Rhodes Scholars.
Yeah. Which definitely had success, but I also think was a sign that they didn't quite feel like he was worth being beyond the point he already was.
Well, yeah, I guess. I mean, at that point, his gimmick was that he had a mustache.
Well, that's my point. It's like they saw that he could do some things, and he definitely was valuable as far as a person to have on the roster who could be a good mid-card champion. But then they did it, and then they're like, I think we found this guy's ceiling.
But then they kept giving him moments to shine, like during the 2013 Royal Rumble when he had his mini feud with Goldust in that match.
Right, which it still scratches my head to think that Vince didn't see any money in that feud. I still don't get it. Because, I mean, listen, would they have been able to do it? And I know I'm skipping a lot, so we're going to go back. Would it have been a money match when it was Goldust versus Stardust? No. No, it wouldn't. But if they had done it, if they had the balls to pull the trigger on it when Cody was still doing this kind of stuff, they could have gotten something out of it.
Right. And I think this is also kind of proof of where he was at the time.
Yeah.
He was supposed to be in an 8-man tag at WrestleMania 29. Now listen to this tag match, okay?
Oh, boy.
The Rhodes Scholars, Rhodes and Sandow.
Yep.
With the Bella Twins.
Oh, great.
Versus Brodus Clay and Tensai and the Funkadactyls.
I was in an antique store today, and I saw a Lord Tensai action figure. And they actually made those. I didn't know this, but you can get, apparently, a Lord Tensai action figure.
Which, by the way, that match was cut through the time constraints and honestly good.
Yeah, I don't think anybody was complaining about it.
And then Money in the Bank, he puts on a good performance, but loses to Damien Sandow, and that feud went nowhere.
Unsurprised, because they had no intention of using Damien Sandow beyond that point anyway.
But then the feud with Cody Rhodes and the Authority, with Goldust coming back, and subsequent matches with Randy and the Shield.
Those were fun.
Those were fun.
It brought Dusty back for his last match, when they did that whole family feud without Steve Harvey, and that was all quality. Because I remember that match on Raw that Orton and Goldust had, right, where Goldust was trying to get Cody's job back, and they had a hell of a TV match that Goldust eventually lost, but.
Yeah, and then Stephanie fires Goldust because he wasn't good enough.
Right.
And then they put Dusty's job as the leader of NXT on the line for a tag team title match against the Shield, which Cody Rhodes and Goldust won.
That was the feud where Dusty pie-faced Stephanie because he just didn't want to hear her anymore. Remember that? He got so much heat for that backstage. And he was like, I was just done with it.
No, hold on. You gotta say it like Dusty, baby.
That's right. Well, I was just tired of her rambling and raving about all these sorts of bullshit, baby. All she is spew her public relations garbage, baby. I just had none of it. I just put my hand in her face and said, not today, baby.
Because I'm trying to trap my boys, baby. You gotta understand. My boys, my sons. My sons, I gotta protect them against you evil McMahons, baby.
Right. That's right. So...
we could go on forever doing a podcast.
That's right. Thank God he used that. Thank God he used that figure 4 so often to take care of business.
Boo. But then Cody Rhodes becomes Stardust.
On paper, I didn't hate this idea. When they actually did it, I just knew that Cody was not gonna. That we had seen it. We had seen peak Cody at that point. At least I thought. This it's only going downhill from here until he's eventually gone. And that's exactly what happened. What was his big feud? Stephen Amell?
Yes.
Yeah. Which was cool because he got to be on Arrow. I'm not saying that wasn't cool. And that's not something that, I mean, obviously Cody Rhodes aspires to be an actor, so what a surprise that he took the bait on that. And Stephen Amell actually worked it all in against Christopher Daniels in another actually halfway decent match. But that's where it was until finally Stardust was gone. Because they teased at the very end doing a Cody and Dustin feud until Vince said, no, there's no money in it. And that's when Cody's like, okay, I've got to go.
Right, and that's the thing, is that he told people that he had to leave because after Legacy, he was used as a lower and mid-card guy, and he believed that he could be a main eventer if given the opportunity, but he had been floundering because creative often had nothing to do with them, except for spur-of-the-moment things.
Right. And so he leaves, and he goes to Ring of Honor, and he goes to New Japan, and before very long, Cody makes himself somebody to pay attention to.
Because he had the whole reputation that WWE didn't use me right. I'm going to show them.
Yeah.
I'm going to prove that I can be that main event guy. And the fans got behind him because there was that whole fuck you WWE attitude going around.
And I'm not saying that he was the first to do that, because he clearly wasn't. But he was definitely the first to have real success with it.
Because I think you can argue that he was the most talented. Because every other ex-WWE guy did that thing, like Damien Sandow and a couple others after they left. But Cody was the one who could sustain it because he had the talent for it.
Yep.
He had the ring. He had the wrestling lineage. He had all of it. That all-in show sold out for a reason.
Yeah. It's just a shame that the people he chose to associate with were the Young Bucks. And that's who he became best buddies with. Because it definitely altered his perspective on what professional wrestling could and should be in a wider context. And that might be the ultimate damning thing that happened with him. But he became Ring of Honor World's Champion. He feuded significantly. He had a hell of a match at Wrestle Kingdom, I want to say 12, against Kota Ibushi. Where we saw the crossroads off the apron that looked like it killed Kota. Which was...
Yep.
And, you know, he had his, you know, the feuds that he had with Kenny at the time before Kenny was really insufferable. At least that was my peripheral knowledge of Kenny at that point.
Right, but then Cody does stuff like he wrestled against Omega for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. He loses.
Right.
He wins the U.S. Heavyweight Championship.
Yep. He joined the Bullet Club back when that meant something. And
well, at that point, the Bullet Club was getting watered down.
Well, okay, yeah, no, that's true. I can't disagree with that, but it still had some relevance at the time.
Right.
Unlike now, where it has zero relevance.
Now, here's a question I have for you.
Yes.
Wrestling What If? So we get the formation of AEW, right?
Yep.
What if it's just Cody, Dustin, Brandy, and maybe one or two other people besides Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks?
As far as who's, like, vice presidents therein?
Yeah, exactly. Like, the executive people in charge. Do you think things would be different?
So if you're saying if we didn't have Omega and the Young Bucks and it was more Cody exclusively that got that level of, like, booking coercion, would we have seen a different or better product? Honestly, no. I don't.
Because of his viewpoints of wrestling.
I think that Cody has...
babyface and the heel.
I completely agree. I totally think that Cody's concepts of professional wrestling, because even if the Young Bucks aren't EVPs, it's not like they weren't friends. It's not like they weren't hanging around. If all of that stays the same, and then Cody's the only one chosen, Cody's going to book himself to be the very best like no one ever was, a la Jeff Jarrett. And also... I was
about to say it. You beat me to it.
And also, it's my world.
Okay, so hold on. I have a question for you, Sean.
Yeah.
Is Cody Rhodes and Jeff Jarrett apt comparison second-generation wrestlers who never quite lived up to the hype of their fathers?
The case could be made, I think. I think that Jeff had more business knowledge and experience than Cody did, and therefore was smarter about his approach to starting and running a business than Cody. As a talent, I think you could definitely make parallels. I think Cody drew about the same amount that Jeff Jarrett did. But Cody also did a little bit better than Jeff because he was at a time when people were so starved for something other than WWE that Cody looked like the guy. I mean, that match with Dustin at Double or Nothing is still regarded as one of the best matches that AEW has ever had.
Exactly. It's just like there was potential with Cody and doing things. There was potential for Cody to do success and change the narrative around professional wrestling.
Yeah. And he did, but just not in the way that we all expected him to. Because instead of being a little more, old school in his approach, he decided to, like, go the other direction and just be like, nah, none of the shit that my dad made money with matters now.
And not only that, but it was just everything he was doing was taking a dump on everything that Dusty stood for. The booking, the storytelling, the promos, all those goddamn awful promos.
Well, it wasn't even the promos. It was then I rehearsed these promos. It's him saying the promos, but then, like, going out and visibly, verbally showing, I've rehearsed everything because I'm an actor and I'm, heels and baby faces, they don't matter anymore. It was literally him taking a dump, not even in the ring. His in-ring wasn't even bad until that weird jingoistic promo he cut, trying to wage war against Britain again. Everything up to that point wasn't even that bad. It was just
outside of the ring. Everything he was saying or doing was just a little bit more, so you don't take professional wrestling seriously. Or, you're trying to get yourself over and not the people you're in the ring with or the business with.
You're signed with TNT, so now you want a reality show. You want your wife to have all this accommodations. And now...
Like, you want your wife to have a podcast and a cooking show and prominent role on TV and executive power, even though she doesn't know what she's doing.
You want to host a crappy game show with Snoop Dogg? Sure! It very quickly turned into the Cody Rhodes trying to do Hollywood.
It's not even necessarily Hollywood. He just wanted to be famous in certain ways. Like, I want to run for Congress when I retire. I want to be a congressman from Georgia. Or, I want to be in movies. I want to be making major motion pictures like Daddy, baby.
Yeah. Except Dusty wasn't, because he knew his place, which was professional wrestling. And it's just, I think we saw the true colors of Cody Rhodes in this past 6 months. Because it's really been the past 6 months to a year that I have never really seen anything like it. To go from one of the most beloved figures in pro wrestling to, just by virtue of who you are as a person, become the most despised man in pro wrestling. And not even in the heat way.
It's in the I don't want to see you or anyone you know way.
Yeah, who would have thought that the first major defection from AEW to WWE and nobody'd give a shit?
Because it doesn't matter, because Cody, if anything, has proven that he is a WWE type wrestler.
Yeah.
He's a sports entertainer, not a professional wrestler. As much shit as we give about Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks, at least they are there all the time. Cody would do a feud and then disappear for 2 or 3 months, then come back, do a reality show, disappear for another couple months, then come back.
Yeah, and it's so sad because of all of the people who, when you saw on paper, were involved with AEW, you'd be like, the person who's going to be the most on the straight and narrow here is Cody, who ended up being the one leaving in the first place, and it wasn't because he was trying to stand up for the professional wrestling. It's because he became so unbelievably insufferable about himself and his wife and everything that he had gotten that nobody wanted to be around him anymore. And now he comes to WWE, and I just don't see what the big deal is. I don't see what he does that's going to make me want to see him any more than I did when he was leaving AEW.
It's going to be, I have insider information about the company I used to work for, and that's his value.
Yeah. And that's really the only reason he's getting signed. That's literally it.
Because here's the thing. Obviously, he's not more important than Roman Reigns or Brock Lesnar. Is he more important than AJ Styles, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn right now?
Sami Zayn, probably. He's wrestling Johnny Knoxville, for fuck's sake.
Okay, but is he more important than guys like Seth Rollins or AJ? Or
Oh, no, absolutely not. He's going to go up and go straight up to the mid-card. And that's it. That's it. There's no way he goes further than that.
You don't see him winning the Royal Rumble or Money in the Bank?
No, I don't.
Especially not with that fucking neck tattoo.
No, I don't. Even with or without the neck tattoo, which they may just turtleneck up if Vince gets tired of looking at it.
But especially the neck tattoo. Fuck.
But I don't know. It's going to be very interesting to see with the career of Cody Rhodes, the direction it takes now that he's coming back to WWE. And am I excited for it? Not especially, but as somebody who used to really like and respect Cody, I'm interested to see what happens.
Personally, for me, all I want is for Cody to hit the road.
I don't want the roads to the top. I want the roads to your house. So you can just sit there and stay there and not scare Pharaoh with fireworks and take care of your child.
Make more babies.
That's right. Make more babies so that you literally cannot leave the house. This is on you, Brandy.
So you have the first interracial babies of all time in the history of the United States of America.
And besides, maybe Brandy didn't like the way she cooked the first placenta. They got to do sequels to that cooking show. So, welcome to Welcome to Brandy's Placenta Blend. I'm your host, Brandy Rhodes. I'm here.
I'm done. I'm tapping out. This podcast is so bad, it's making me tap out.
That's not our gimmick, sir. We can't take that gimmick. That's not ours to have.
If AEW and WWE gonna steal stuff, I'm gonna.
Well, I guess on that note, we might as well mercifully put this podcast to bed and wrap it in swaddling clothes and lay it in a manger. Next week, we have another incredible show that we are going to have laced together that may or may not include the ongoing joke of Brandy. But we will maybe need some in order to get through it. But with that said, Skylar, great to see you this week. Great talking about this. And we will see you going forward on next week's show, my friend.
As long as we don't mention any more placenta.
Well, the only way you're going to know whether we mention it or not is whether you like, and you share, and you subscribe, and you hit that bell button and you switch it to all for all your wrestling placenta-related topics. We got you. But we also talk about other things, more important things, and until those things arise, thank you very much for watching. We have to go to a commercial break, and we will see you right after this.